Hello, welcome back. In this session, we will learn about scalar user-defined functions. And while developing the scalar user-defined function, we will use SQL script as part of this scalar function. Scalar function is the smallest object or simplest object where we can use SQL script. So here we are in SQL console. So we know what is function from our earlier lesson, right? So let's quickly recap. If I run this statement, I get the current date. If I run this statement, I'm making the column title into the uppercase. If I don't use upper, then it will be a upper and lower combination of letters. So what I want to say is current date is a function, upper is a function, and those two functions are delivered with SAP by default when we install the SAP HANA. But what if we have some custom functions like this? I want to derive a final price by deducting the discount price. So the formula is something like this: MRP minus MRP multiplied with 20%. Then after that we'll get the final price, and I'm making the column name as final price. So if I run this statement, so I get 20% discount based on the MRP value. So this looks good, but this is our custom formula. So for custom formula, SAP won't deliver any functions. So we have to develop our own function. So let's see how we can create a function to achieve that custom calculation. So for that, we need to create a function, and syntax is similar to the table or view function, view statement: create function and function name. So I'll go with f price. And in any scalar function or even table function, stored procedure, we need to give a input parameter, and input parameter is not mandatory, but here we will use input parameter for the MRP value. IP, as I am just mentioning IP as an input parameter, so you can mention any text here. This is not restricted. And the data type of input parameter is decimal 10,2. Because the MRP value is in decimal 10.2. Okay, so that's the first line. And second line, we need to mention returns. Returns is the output, and the output parameter I'm saying result, and also result data type need to be mentioned. So that is again decimal 10,2. And we need to inform SAP HANA whether we are writing SQL or SQL script. So this is SQL script, that's why we need to mention language SQL script. And the fourth statement, SQL security invoker as begin end. Okay, let's review this statement again. So create function is a keyword to create a function, and here the function name, and IP is the input parameter. This is the value we are passing to the function, and function will like here upper we are passing title here, right? So this title is like that. Here we are passing MRP. We are going to pass MRP in the input parameter, and whatever the value you are passing, you need to mention the data type here. Returns result. Returns is going to return the result, give the output value. So there you need to mention the result value, result or anything, even you can say OP, output parameter, anything will work. And we need to mention the data type of that result. And we are informing SAP HANA, we are sending the SQL script. And SQL security invoker as, okay, so there are two types of security. One is invoker. Invoker means if you are running, it will take the authorization level of your user ID. If you mention default, SQL security default, then it's going to use the access level of sysrepo user. There is a special user called sysrepo, and that user is going to run this function with sysrepo user access level. So this is one of the important point to remember. What needs to be used? SQL security, either invoker or definer. Okay, so we will see that second option later. And you mention as, and begin, end. This is the block where you need to write your code. Okay, so now the output parameter is result, right? So we need to derive whatever the value we want into the result. And I'll write the statement, then I'll explain again. IP minus, same formula, but here I am, instead of MRP, I am mentioning IP. Okay, two open brackets, two close brackets. Okay, this looks good. Okay, here in the result, so when you are assigning some value to any variable, then you need to mention this type of symbol, colon and equal to. So that means the whatever the right side value is going to assign or is going to store into result. So that's why we need to use colon equal to assign a value. And when you are referring some variables, you need to use colon and then variable name. So here IP is a input parameter or input variable. So that parameter need to be referred here. So when you are referring that parameter, you need to use colon before the variable or parameter. So I'm using this IP minus IP multiplied by 20%. Okay. Okay, so the function executed successfully. Okay, now where the function is going to where the function is going to create, so that's going to be in the functions. So let's refresh this. See the f price. If I double click the f price, I'll see the parameter. This is a type, this is the name what we mentioned, result we mentioned, IP we mentioned. Okay, so this is the statement what we executed. So because once you run the statement and function is created, this code is going to be the reference to check where like how this function is created and how the logic is defined in the function. Okay, so let's close this and let's see how it works. Select, you can test function using dummy table. Select f price and I'm going to give 100 from dummy. So what we are expecting is output should be 80 because we are expecting 20% discount, right? 80. So the function is working perfect. So let's replace this statement with our new function. So I'm going to delete all this code. I'm simply mention f price of MRP. See, we get same result, 896. So f price is a function and we are applying on MRP. So like that you can apply f price on any column which is a decimal of 10.2. Okay, here the formula, the custom calculation is simple one. So but when it's a business calculations in your project, it may be a very complex. So that time with this scalar function is going to be very handy. Okay, so one thing I want to tell you, so here whatever we used, this is full of expression. There is nothing, no SQL we used here, right? So for example, to assign a result, if I write a select statement, okay, I'll put this code. As a final price from books. Okay, so if I put a code like this, select MRP minus so and so from books. Okay, so let's see what happens. I will change the function name. I'll put 1. So SQL syntax error, incorrect syntax near select. So basically what I want to say is, in scalar function, SQL statements are not allowed. Only expressions are allowed. So if you use any select statement inside this scalar function, and scalar function is not going to accept. Why? Because scalar functions are compiled with L code. L is a language HANA uses in the background. So these functions are compiled with L code, and L code doesn't support table access inside the function. So that's the reason scalar functions won't allow SQL statements inside the function. You have to go with for expressions only. So that's why we written expression here. Okay, so that's good, right? So now the second requirement is, now my function is hard coded with 20%, but what if I want to change it to 30% or 40% or 10%? So I want the column name and percentage of discount both needs to be decided when I'm running the function. So in that case we have to use one more input parameter to make it work. But there is no way we can modify this existing function. So if you see here, there is no edit option. Even if we go into this, it's same like table, because we developed a development object which is not possible to change. The only way to change is drop this function, then recreate it. Otherwise create a new function with new name. So that's the problem with the development objects. That's why SAP is recommending to use design time objects as much as possible. So scalar functions are possible to develop in a design time object mode. So this change option we will see in the next session with the design time object, how we can develop a design time object on the scalar function. See you in the next session. Until then, happy learning. Bye.